Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Dr. Terri Show. I am so excited. I have the Alison Armstrong back in the studio and also the Dan Denai, two of my favorite people. And we are going to get into some conversation about the Queen's Code. What is the Queen's Code? Well, it is some very valuable information that I learned about myself and how I engaged with men, specifically with Dan, and some things that I learned to shift in my way that I was communicating with my husband that made all the difference in the world in our relationship. As you know, I'm very passionate about physical health, emotional health, financial health, spiritual health, but relationship health is one of the number one things that I'm so passionate about. Hormones plays a role. So many things play a role, but communication plays a huge role. So join me and Dan and Alison in the studio today as we get deep into this conversation. Okay. Welcome back.
Okay.
Hello. These are my two favorite people.
Nice.
Hopefully that doesn't offend anybody that thinks they're my favorite people.
Two of your favorites.
Two of my favorite. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's true. Thank you. Yes, you did bail me out for a lot of reasons, and I'm really excited about this conversation today because I think we already talked to you and introduced you in the show prior to this one, and I was so excited when you were coming up here and you agreed to come on because I used to annoy people with giving them your stuff, your work. and now, DVDs aren't a thing anymore because I used to give away all those DVDs. But the most impactful part of your work, as you know, has been how it impacted mine and Dan's relationship. And so I want to talk about the Queen's Code a lot today because the keys to the kingdom and then the Queen's Code were really my entry into your work. Mm-hmm. I said this a little bit on the previous show, but I didn't want to get too far into the story, but I was probably in probably 2013. Now I know for sure, I remember it like it was today. It was 2013 fall. And Dan and I had met in 2009. So that's 4 years. Mm-hmm. And it was well beyond time for the proposal. Like, where is it? And I was reacting to that, but not realizing I was reacting to that. Yeah. And I was talking to a friend who used to teach your workshops, and she said, you need to get Keys to the Kingdom. And I'm like, what is Keys to the Kingdom? She's like, it's a book. You can go. I don't even know where I got it. Well, Amazon wasn't a thing then. But I found it, I got it, I read it, and then immediately on the back signed up for every other thing that you offered because it made so much sense. And then, so that was the fall, and then I got the Queen's Code after that and read that, started reading that in the spring of 2014. And we were on a vacation with that summer with our kids in Mexico, and Dan and I are sitting out on the patio that is off the master bedroom, and I had just finished the part about emasculation in that book. And I remember looking over at him and saying, I am so sorry. I have been emasculating you this whole time and didn't know it. It kind of chokes me up a little bit because I think that, and you know what got me into this day when I tell the story is I didn't have to explain what I meant. He knew exactly what I meant.
You never had to explain it to him.
And the other great thing about men that I've learned is I just had to say it once. Yeah. I didn't have to say, and I think I probably didn't. No, I'm really sorry. Okay. He said his response was thank you, and he got it. Mm-hmm. And it just totally opened a whole, and I wanted to tell him, and I think I probably did go on and tell about all the things I'd been learning through this amazing story, The Queen's Code, which is a book you can get on Audible or your website. And I highly encourage it, doesn't matter if you're in a relationship, if you've been married for 30 years. I really need to go back and re-listen to it and reread it, to be frank, because even though a lot of those things really I did embody, it's life gets away and you can tend to default back to as you like to call human normal, which is so true. And that just began a journey. And then that fall, I signed up for every workshop, and then I signed up to learn how to teach your workshops and all the things. And it's just powerful work. So I wanted to talk about the Queen's Code. I want to talk about the impact of it. I want you to chime in where you want to chime in. But we talked about how Keys to the Kingdom was born, but how did you birth the Queen's Code?
Oh, boy. So as we spoke about before, when I started studying men, I thought it'd be 2 or 3 months to learn everything worth learning. And about a year later, I knew that I had learned so much about men that was contrary and unthinkable to our culture, to what I grew up inside of, to what was funny on TV. We're past for funny on TV, emasculating men. I knew that there was enough that I needed to communicate. And I'd already started. I called it the transformation of the castration club. And one by one, I would talk to women about, really, there's 3 parts. There's how we're triggered to emasculate men, which is some expression, usually a combination of fear and frustration. Those are always there, fear and frustration. And so there's the trigger, and then there's how, right, which is about 15 common ways that we diminish men, that we
can you name
steal their power.
I think it's important.
Yeah, well, there's overt ways, and then there's what I call green emasculation. It has a very small energy footprint.
It's green.
Yeah, so the overt ways would be criticizing, complaining, comparison. Why can't you be more like Susie's husband, right? You were so much better in the first couple of years, even comparing a man to a previous version of himself. So those really out loud, and especially the tone, the timing. You're just like your father, or why can't you be just like your father, right? There's no winning in it. And then what I think of as green, because it can serve energy. So it's withholding. We withhold appreciation. We withhold admiration. We withhold accountability. We want men to be helpful and implement our plans instead of releasing a result to them to make their own plan and produce for us, which is such a natural part of who they are. To be accountable is such a part of who men are. And withhold sex, withhold food. Just don't feed them, and you'll watch them melt. Just don't feed them, right? They'll go kind of crazy. So all the withholdings, but then there's the recycling. Do you know? So a man can do something once that wasn't perfect, and we'll use it again and again and again. Well, remember when.
He always says we have such a great memory. Women do.
Oh, it's so brutal. And sometimes
You have a very specific type of memory that is utilized at specific times. Forgets a lot of things, remembers certain things.
Yes. And
it's a survival thing.
And it is. It's definitely survival. And it's unfortunate because women. Okay, I'm going to finish the first part and then I'll go to this, right? So there's what triggers us to do it, how we do it, including ignoring men, like you're not worth noticing. Why should I look at you? Why should I smile at you? Why should I say hi? Why should I acknowledge that you spoke to me? And that also comes from fear and frustration, right? We're afraid that if we look at you, if we smile at you, you'll jump on us, because you're beasts, and you'll just, so much fear. And then the third part is how we justify having diminished you, that you deserved to be diminished because of all the things you don't do right. Well, how do we know what right is? The way I would do it. And then what makes it worse is that, so we try to hold men accountable for behaving like women. And because very few men will let that happen. I'm not your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right?
You're not my mother.
Yes, because most men won't allow themselves to be held accountable for acting like a woman. We think that means you won't be held accountable for anything. That you're just slackers and dodgers and irresponsible and unaccountable, and it couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, because you did the course that online, it's called Being Extraordinary as a Man. And you did the live version. And stunning to create this course for men about being a man, and finding out that we had to include a process by which a man could restore himself from the failures, what he held himself accountable for not doing, that he was deeply ashamed of.
Wow.
And the things that you all hold yourself accountable for, you'd have to be Superman. Right? Like, how many men I've had in tears, I just should have been there. I should have been there. She was in Europe. You couldn't have been there. I should have been there. Right? And you really hold yourself accountable for Superman standards to protect and provide for the people you love. And, so this whole thing, this way we've got it set up and the way that we go after men to try to get them to act like us, we miss their strength, their beauty, their brilliance, their kind of smart, that complementary strength that we could have if we weren't just bleeding it off all the time.
So good.
And I didn't know any of that when I started. I was excellent at emasculation.
A professional.
I excelled, and studying men made me even more effective at it.
Sure.
And which is why I knew the Queen's Code had to be fiction. And we started our workshops, which we don't do anymore. We're all online. But I started them so women could teach me how to write that book in a way that they would learn what they needed to know about men, like about single focus, right? About playing for points, about being set up to win, about having very good reasons for what they do, but so different than ours, right? To write a book in such a way that women could end up with information, but in the process have transformed this adversarial relationship towards men because they don't act like women. So how that garden path, right? And that's why there's 8 characters, 4 men and 4 women. Each section starts with the name of the person whose point of view it is. And this is something I haven't gotten to tell you. When I recorded the audiobook in 2022, it, in a way, broke my heart to find out. There's her name is Candace, and she's in South Africa. And she said, Alison, when I read the Queen's Code to myself, right, in print, I didn't read the men's parts with the same kind of emotion and sincerity that you do in the audiobook. And I realized it's because of my prejudice against men. And that's when I realized every person has read this book
From their
filtering through what they think it is. And while, I mean, I think you know this, I finally started owning it when the audiobook came out. I didn't write it. I typed it. I did all the research. Everything that's in that book is validated by man after man after man. But when I sat down to write it, and the same thing happened with the keys to the kingdom, but I didn't count on it happening. This screen opened up. It's about right here. And this movie started playing. And I typed and typed and typed and typed and typed and typed as fast as I could until I just exhausted at the end of the day. Go be a mom.
Yep.
Come back. Make sense of the mess because I wasn't such a good typist. And by the time I was done editing what I'd done the day before, the movie would pick right back up. And I just type and type and type and type and type. And I looked it up. I looked up how long does it take to write a book, 100,000 word book. The Queen's Code's 96,000 words. I rounded off. How long does it take in order to write a book that long? And on average, 1.5 years.
Yeah.
I typed the Queen's Code in 3 weeks.
Oh.
I did not write it. And I finally can say channeled without, without going, It's a channeled work. But it is. And then, that was in 2009 was when I typed it. We didn't publish it till 2012, which was another channeled thing. I asked for the best way for the widest possible distribution. And this whole plan came out of the bulkhead, leaving the airport in Italy.
Well, it's such a powerful book. And I would love to hear from the man's perspective. What do you have to say about all that?
Well, let me start by saying, Alison, if it wasn't for you and your work, Terry and I would not be married today.
Yeah.
It was a true statement. And when you look at the things that we've been able to, as a couple, accomplish, the lives that we've been able to touch through Evexias and Evexapel and all of the, wellness and integrative therapies that we teach on and we teach to physicians across the country, I think we've taught over now 5,000 medical practitioners just in our first few years. And that's just going to grow to 50,000. And so when I look at, what we've been able to do and accomplish as a couple, I have to start and say thank you because that, I'm telling you, that book, or that really it's all the work, but it started out with the Keys to the Kingdom, right? And then followed up with Queen's Code. But those of you that maybe not have read the book, if you haven't read any of the books, I would just tell you, they truly are life-changing works if you'll come in and really work with them. I always laugh though when you say you studied men for you were in the first 3 or 4 months you studied men. And what did you figure out at the end of the first 3 or 4 months about men?
Oh my God.
Well, I'll tell you what you've said before.
Okay.
It's word that I've heard you say is it's not the men that are the problem. And it's just how you phrase that. But to kind of move us along and just talk about, what within the books and the series and the work helped with our relationship was Terri had been divorced before. I had been divorced before. And what we did know is that we will never be divorced again because it's painful and it's tragic and it's, harmful.
The collateral damage.
It's just, the kids and everything that goes along with it, the assets and all of those things. So when she and I first started dating, we were very much like, okay, if we get married, there will be no divorce. There will be death. But no divorce. And that means one of us would be, or both of us. But what happened is while we were dating in those first, 3 or 4 years, there was just things that I was like, I'm sorry, I can't marry that. I'm not going to marry that situation. And so because I knew, I was being honest with myself, I don't want to sign up for that.
Yes.
You could, and I think a lot of guys do this. They oh, she's this, or we'll get over that, or we'll get over. Oh, and guess what? That's why you have 50% of all marriages ending in divorce, because they fool themselves going into it. The guy fools himself, or the girl fools. Oh, it's going to be okay. I can get over that. That's just one little flaw, this, that, or the other. I hate to say this, but that's BS. I mean, it really is. And so what we did, what I found with Terri going in and reading and understanding, I just saw her interaction with me completely change. Completely change. And
well, I figured out you weren't my adversary.
Right. We're on the same team.
Yeah.
And I had said that.
He'd already, I never understood what that meant.
It's like, we're not doing this. We're on the same team. I want good for you. You want good for me. Yeah. I don't want bad for you. You don't want bad for me. I mean, once you get that kind of on the same.
Nice, yeah.
And so we quit competing. I think that was one of the first things. And then little things like when you talked about like transition time. You, let me tell you guys right now, ladies, literally listening, if you don't know what transition time means, you need to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because it is the biggest thing or one of the biggest things that I noticed when she figured out what that was. And what it is, or an example of, you come home, you've been fighting battles and slaying dragons all day with everything at work. And I know you have the kids and I know you have supper or whatever you have going on there. But the guy, when he hits the door, does not need you in his face. He doesn't need you asking him stuff. He doesn't need you reminding him that he didn't do this or he didn't do that or he forgot to do this. What he needs is about 5 minutes. It's not a lot. It's just 5 minutes. Can I just, settle down a little bit, relax, shift gears from being this warrior to being, okay, this is my wife. This is my lover. This is my person that I'm doing life with. But let me let me at least take off my Superman outfit and put on my, regular clothes. And that was I'm just using that as an example because that's one of the things that you teach so well in the books, and she picked up on right away, and it made a huge difference for me. Now, for some guys, maybe that doesn't make a big difference, but for me, that was a huge thing from a standpoint of really noticing marketable or marked changes within how we were interacting. So I think that's kind of
there's so many great nuggets, and I think this is such a great example just to give just tangible nuggets on things that just seem so small but are really so big. But what would happen from the female perspective is when we're ready to connect, these things. He's home and we're ready to connect. And when that connection doesn't happen, we feel rejected. And when we feel rejected, we're afraid. And when we're afraid, we go into emasculation mode. And so...
or start creating like these negative fantasies.
Yes, like, he's mad at me, he doesn't love me, all the fear stuff. And I don't remember if I learned about transition time in the workshop or in the Queen's Code. I don't remember which. But I just remember that making so much sense. And then when I tried it on, it was like, he came out. The amazing guy. So I got to say something else too about this. So one of my daughters, my second oldest daughter, is engaged and she's getting married next month. And our girls have done all the work. Probably could re-engage with it now that they're older. But one of the little games they had at this bachelorette party was, what advice would you give to the misses? There was a cute little poem, and that's the first thing I said, transition time. And I kind of wrote out what transition time was.
Yes.
It's so incredibly powerful. And the other thing too that's funny that goes into this story a little bit, and you had asked, were talking off the break, you're like, I don't even know how you and Dan met. And I was itching to say some things in the first program that we did together because we were complete strangers on a plane sitting across from each other. I wasn't contorting. He wasn't peacocking. I don't know. He might have been, but I didn't care. I was myself.
The feathers fly.
Yeah. And I was probably, we talk about this, were the most our authentic selves in that 2 hour and 40-minute plane ride than we've ever been again. Because you're not this person's safe. I can tell him anything about myself. And yeah, I have 4 kids and 2 grandkids. What do you think about that? That's not, now if I was in the dating world, I'd probably withhold that information. It might be a turnoff. So anyway, a lot of good stuff from that.
Wow. Well, I know you have been that authentic and more again, not never again, or you wouldn't be as close as you are.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a journey for sure.
It is. And I mean, transition time, you're right. It's one of the keys because we want to connect and we feel rejected. And women tend to think that men's actions come from their feelings because that's how women are wired. We act consistent with how we feel unless we can't. And then we're completely inauthentic. So when a man doesn't act the way that we expect, we think that's a reflection of his feelings. So if I can fix your feelings, I can fix your behavior. And so we'll decide what we have to change about ourselves for you to love or respect or care about me more. If I were more or less of this, then you would feel right and then you would act right. All based on these assumptions, right? Like we talked about last time. But something as simple as transition time, and this is what was fascinating as I was learning more and more about men, and that thing in the first couple months, that in the war between the sexes, women are on the offense. That was what I really saw, that we were the one on the offense. And as soon as we stop warring, you show up for us. You show up to protect us, which is so natural for men to protect women, unless we're attacking you in a way that you have to protect yourself from us.
Unless you don't seem like you're acting like a woman. You're seeming like you're acting like a warrior, like you're a, so, and that goes to, excuse me, the competition piece.
Right.
And you can figure out that you really can do so much more by being a teammate and a true teammate. But I'm a sports guy, so you watch teammates interact with each other all the time. They're not always lovey-dovey and smacking each other and giving high fives. They are also sometimes yelling at each other intensely from a standpoint of, hey, we want the same thing, right? So that's that fierce. But let's fiercely fight together to accomplish this, or to go here, or to do something that is positive in this direction. And that's just a little shift in that, where we're not competing for anything. We're not. I'm not this trying to pound my chest. You're not trying. That just makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Hey, can I say a couple things about what you said? Because there's a place women will go to. Want to make sure they don't. Women think that a man's desire to protect us comes from the perception of a weakness in us, right? That, she needs protecting, when it isn't like that. Right. There's an admiration, there's a regard for a different kind of strength, that you can lend your strength for the preservation of our strength.
Yeah, it's well said.
Yeah.
I've never said it that way before.
Good.
And so much of the strength you see in us is in who we're being.
Yeah.
In the compassion, in the generosity, in the serenity, in the joy, in the playfulness, right? And you want to protect that because it's priceless. It's priceless.
Yeah, it is totally perspective on that, because the way you just said that, it is about wanting to. You don't need to waste your energy on this. This is not. It's not that you couldn't. Yeah, you could handle this or whatever it is, but you shouldn't be. And it is it's the knighthood. It's the king that protects the castle to help the beautiful queen that is to be taken care of, but also is extremely strong in herself, extremely stable in herself, extremely powerful in herself. So that's well said.
And even potentially the inspiration for all the soldiers. That's right. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
And there's another thing that you said, and this is related to what I was telling you earlier today about different ways of seeing things. And so continuing the story of the Queen's Code, summer of 2018, I was just like, hey, what you guys doing over there? And checking in with the 8 characters in the Queen's Code. It's like they live in another dimension. And they showed me what happened. Like a month after the Queen's Code ended,
waiting for this one.
They showed me what happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be ready to write that for a long time. And then I get pregnant with these things, right? And start gestating. And so I put it on my calendar for last summer, August 7th. I'm going to start typing the King's Code. It's coming through. And I didn't know it was going to be called the King's Code. It seemed so obvious, but I heard that in June. I was doing dishes and I hear, the King's Code. Is that the title? Mm-hmm. Wait a second. Does that mean it's going to be more about the men and less about the women? Mm-hmm. And they showed me the men sitting at the table. They're sitting at the table in the garden where the Queen keys the kingdom and the Queen's Code happens. The men are sitting there and I'm like, wait a second. So the Queen's Code is about a code of honor for women, and women take a vow, and it's also the secret code of men. Is there going to be a vow in the King's Code? Uh-huh. Is it what I think it is? And by golly, I mean, I in a few weeks, I'm going to start your Queen's Code journey for the 8th time. Wow. And I re-listen to the audiobook each time. Mm-hmm. And I hear things that I've never heard before.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I learn things from it that you would think, since I typed it, I would know these things. But the next time, when I started the journey in the fall, I started seeing there's so much forecasting in the Queen's Code of the King's Code, right up to the very last section of the Queen's Code.
Oh, I know this, and so do many of your tribe, because we've been waiting.
But we've been waiting. But this is what happened on August 7th. I wasn't in front of a typewriter. I was driving to Idaho to help my daughter. But it was on my calendar. Start downloading the King's Code. So I'm driving from Colorado to Wyoming to Idaho, and all of a sudden these things are happening. Like, there's my rearview mirror, and there's the road, and all these things are being shown to me. It's like the movie took up this whole screen, but thank goodness it was transparent. And like, what? Is this the King's Code? Uh-huh. And one of the things that they showed me was this way that, since women, instinctually, we seek safety in connection, it creates an inability to be with contentious communication. Anything that disrupts those warm, fuzzy feelings, it's terrifying to us. And men, and I was telling you about this last time we spoke, consciously or unconsciously filling a team with complementary strength because the aim is productivity. And you just spoke to this.
Yeah. When
the aim is productivity instead of connectivity, the ability to be with communication that is aggressive, disagreeing, swear words, hollering, it just doesn't affect you. Mm-hmm. This is just us working it out because we're trying to produce a result. And who cares that things were flying and we were swearing and we said that stuff to each other? Look at all we got done. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Look what we got done.
That's good.
Right? And it rocked my world. You'd think after 34 years I would have figured that out sooner, but just, oh my gosh, this completely shapes the way that, like, women instinctually we hide problems because we think they'll cause a disconnect. Yeah. Instead of, like we teach in the Queen's Code, could you help me solve this problem? Mm-hmm. And men are like,
because men are like, we love to do. That's right. There's a problem, we can fix it.
Yep. Yes. Or as one man on the panel, which thousands and thousands of people have seen your part. My Dan was just watching it 2 weeks ago.
Dude, I don't think I actually saw that.
Well, Understanding Sex and Intimacy. Okay. There you are on stage on the panel of men.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And now our curriculum is completely opened up to men.
Wow.
So they're doing Understanding Men online, Understanding Sex and Intimacy, and Understanding Love and Commitment. Men can watch the Being Extraordinary as a Woman course, just as women can watch the Being Extraordinary as a Man course and learn how different our needs are.
Yeah,
it's so important. It's so good. And then I'm answering questions over 10 hours a month for people in the curriculum.
Yeah, that's great.
It's wonderful, but it just, thank you. Thank you for what you do and how you've been.
Thousands, if not millions of people, thank you as well.
Yeah.
Because we've been able to have an impact on a lot of people. So that's great.
There's a conference, a talk I'm working on, and the kind of like you, the title of it kind of came to me. Mm-hmm. I think that's divinely driven. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but it's there's purpose and partnership. So we have purpose as individuals, but we have purpose as couples as well that we're brought together to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And I think that gets missed so many times because people get in, they get together, the dream has happened, the wedding has happened, everything's happened. And then this whole conundrum between men and women in communication and not understanding each other happens. And then our purpose together as a couple kind of falls by the wayside. I see this a lot. So thank you for your work, and thank you for what it's produced for so many, I don't even know, thousands.
It's millions now.
Yeah, millions of people globally. Mm-hmm.
People that are listening to this.
People that are listening.
You guys I'm just telling you.
Engage with it.
If you're female, well, and males too, but I'm just saying, it will make a huge difference in your life. It makes a huge difference in your husband or your boyfriend's life. Yes. We made like you said, we made all of our daughters get in there and read. I mean, it's just a huge.
Yeah. And I would say it's seasonally too. You now I'm excited to go listen to the audiobook because I want to re-engage with the Queen's Code now. Several years later, we're married. It's interesting. You can even, I think it's so important to re-engage with that work because you have different seasons of your life. Mm-hmm. You know, I think back in 2018, 2017, 2018 to 2022-ish, when we were really engaged in one of the most difficult seasons as a couple with, a lot of it with our challenges with just business and things like that. And it's so easy to default back into human animal, human normal, and forget all the stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. That's exactly what happened because you're in this survival mode. So it's just so important to keep re-engaging with the work. But thank you for being here. I'm excited to talk again.
Yes.
Thank you. I know this was a busy day and you came over to chat with us.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate you.